Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us this evening. My name is Matt Thurgood. I'm the course leader for Criminology and Justice here at ACAP. I'll be taking you through our Discover ACAP Criminology session today. In the spirit of reconciliation, ACAP acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to their elders past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. I'm coming to you from the lands of the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation here in Naarm or Melbourne, and you're welcome to acknowledge the lands of the people who you're on in the chat if you like. All right, so our session this evening, we have a team of folks in the background. I just get to have my face on camera, but there's Nick and Saloni in the background who are there to answer any questions that you have. So feel free to keep questions going in the chat, and I'm more than happy to answer questions at the end, probably less so along the way, but certainly at the end. So feel free to pop them in there. So yeah, what we'll be running through in this session, I'll give you a bit of background information about ACAP as a college. Obviously, I'll talk through the courses that we have in Criminology and Justice here at ACAP, and there'll be plenty of time for questions as well. As I say, feel free to pop them in the chat as we're going, or you're welcome to ask at the end. Yeah, so ACAP, it's actually been around quite a bit of time. I realised about 30 minutes ago that it's almost 40 years that ACAP's been around. So although you might not have heard of us until recently, yeah, been around for a long time, and nationally as well. So as I say, I'm coming to you from Melbourne, but as you likely know, we've got campuses in most of the capital cities across Australia, and we have, yeah, obviously students from right across the country. We primarily have courses in counselling, criminology, psychology and social work. We also have coaching and management as well, so quite an array of courses. And yeah, over the 40 years almost now that ACAP's been around 20,000 graduates, I think more than that, have yeah, found their way through. So pretty exciting as far as we're concerned anyway. One of the key things that we pride ourselves on is trying to provide a safe, comfortable environment at ACAP. So we are very much committed to creating a diverse and inclusive learning environment and ensuring that everyone in the ACAP community, staff and students, are treated equally. So we actually have a reconciliation action plan that's recently been announced by the college. We have a very strong ally network as well. Those are just a couple of the examples of what I mean by that. So yeah, if you're curious, there's a link there to the diversity and inclusion page on our website, and you can see exactly what we're doing in that space. All right, sorry, I keep skipping slides. My mouse is a bit sticky. So why do students choose to study with us? Why do we have, 20,000 graduates over the course of ACAP's life? A key part of it is the personalised learning experience that students receive. So, while some classes are generally sort of traditional, lectures, tutorials, that kind of thing. So, you've got sessions where information is delivered to you, you've got interactive classes and all of that. Generally, you get to know your teaching staff and we get to know you. It's actually one of the great things about ACAP. As I said, I look after criminology and justice here at the college. I've been here, actually chalked up 20 years recently, so I've been here a long time. Part of the reason for that is because I get to know my students. I talk to people at these sessions, I meet people at orientation, I teach throughout, the course. or our criminology courses, and I see them at graduation. So, it's a wonderful journey that staff get to be a part of, and we feel that that makes, the study experience a whole lot better for our students as well. We have teachers who work in the industry. So by that, we've got people who are either researchers or practitioners in the field. Depending on which criminology course you choose, you will have the opportunity to undertake a placement, so a work placement. That's a really important part, of your building of knowledge and experience. And the accredited degrees, that relates more to other courses. We don't have to worry about that in criminology in terms of, professional bodies and things like that, which is pretty handy for us. We are flexible in terms of how we deliver things, and I'll come back to that in a bit more, but talking to you now, you might be thinking of starting in September in our trimester 3 intake, and we also have intakes in February and June. So 3 intakes per year because we run 3 terms of study each year. As a accredited provider, we offer fee help student loans, or students have the option of paying up front. But most people are able to, just utilize fee help. All right, so like I said, we do pride ourselves on our flexibility. And what that means is choosing anywhere from 1 to 4 units of study, or 4 subjects per trimester. So, depending on what else you've got going on in life, and we understand that everyone's busy, work, family, other things going on. Maybe you're returning to study after a little bit, whatever the situation, right? Perhaps consider starting with just 2 units, right, in your first trimester. And then the beauty of that is if you feel, I can take on another 1 or even 2 more, in the next trimester, you can increase your load. Alternatively, if you feel like I need to do less, then you've got that option as well. We do offer both online and on-campus study, and we're also in criminology pretty proud of ourselves. We're starting to do a bit of hybrid learning as well. So let me cover the options for those of you who are based in Melbourne, and it may be in the chat. Let me know, whereabouts are you based? Whether you're nearest city or exactly where you are in the country. But for those of you who are in Melbourne, at least, and if you're interested in on-campus study, we deliver our criminology courses from Melbourne. So Virginia, you'll have that option. I'm sorry, everyone else, for the moment anyway. Those of you in Sydney, Brisbane, Perth, Tamworth included, and elsewhere, you'll obviously have access to our online study. And that's just via Zoom. So like we're doing now, I imagine many of you have gotten used to Zoom like everyone else around the world over the last few years. So it's just a matter of hitting the link and logging in. We are offering, or we are running classes via hybrid learning. And what that means is we have students on campus with us in a lecture, and you're also able to Zoom in. So everybody's in, doing the same lecture. Our lectures are recorded as well in case you can't make it, but just trying to be as flexible as we can. So those options are there for you. And it looks like we've got a good batch of folks all up and down the East Coast, and a few from Perth as well. So I appreciate you chiming in from wherever you are. All right. Other sort of general things that are, I think, really important to consider, the fact that ACAP offers various levels of support to our students. So there's the obvious sort of level of support, the academic support, what we call student learning support, or SLS. We have, and I get that I'm probably biased because I work with these people, but our SLS people are just wonderful. They're really dedicated to helping our students and just, helping students realize their potential and get the most out of themselves and develop their skills, etc. So our SLS team are available across every single campus. So even if you're studying online, let's say you're one of the folks in Sydney, Perth, or Brisbane, and you're studying criminology online, you can go to your local campus if you like and have a session with student learning support, or you can access them online as well. So they run webinars via Zoom. They do one-on-one consultations, either in person or via Zoom as well. So if you are maybe a bit, and understandably, nervous about starting, a bachelor's degree or whichever course it is that you're thinking about, that support is there for you, in addition to, what your lecturers and tutors will offer you as well. And again, offered flexibly. So don't feel like you do have to go to a campus in order to get this stuff. You can access it online. We also have what's called the accessibility service, and this is there to provide support and help students who perhaps, whether they have perhaps a medical condition or they're a carer for somebody with maybe a medical condition or whatever it might be. The accessibility service is there to make sure that those needs are met. So, if that just means, extra time for submitting essays, whatever it might be. So that service is there too. And we also offer a free confidential counselling service for all of our students. And again, counselling is offered on campus, on every campus, and also available via telephone and via Zoom. So as I say, levels of support that are easy to access and there for you right throughout your course. All right. You would be hearing from one of our criminology students, Jackie. Unfortunately, Jackie's ill and wasn't able to make it today. But I didn't want to ignore this part of it, because I think probably maybe a key thing that would have been great to hear is a student's experience. And obviously I can't speak for Jackie and her experience, but I can give you a bit of background. She's actually, as of the end of our current term of study, which finishes this week, Jackie will be completing her Bachelor of Criminology and Justice. And she's got an interesting journey where she actually started back with us in 2018, it was. So she's taken a bit longer than, we generally see, but she took a trimester off here, a couple of trimesters in 2020. As a Melbourne-based student, we were in lockdown. Things are pretty difficult, can understand, needing to take a bit of time off. She got there in her own way, doing a couple of units, one trimester, one unit, another trimester, that type of thing. She very much took advantage of the flexibility that we offer. And as you can see from the slide there, is pretty keen to get into a research position, actually, that involves criminology. So she's looking at postgraduate study and things like that. So sorry, Jackie's not here to tell you more. But that's a little bit about her and her journey anyways. All right, so let's get a bit more specific around the sorts of things that our courses cover, as well as just a bit of background before then around what criminal justice, what criminology actually is. So one of the things that we often discuss in our classes, particularly early on in people's courses, is what you generally see on television. And feel free to throw in, tell me the crime shows that you're watching at the moment on Netflix and TV and all the rest of it. I imagine some of you are still watching the CSIs and the Law and Orders and all of that, as well as the countless documentary series on Netflix. They certainly make for great conversations, but what the reality of criminology and criminal justice is yeah, probably a little bit different. Yeah, Taj, thanks. Sherlock certainly counts. I can't say I've watched that one, or many of them, to be honest. But yeah, they make for fun, right? And they're entertaining. But what we want to understand, thanks, Nick. Yeah, I honestly haven't watched that one either. And I don't listen to crime podcasts, to be honest. Maybe let me explain this stuff and then I'll tell you the spaces that I occupy and why. But yeah, what we look to understand is why things operate the way that they do in terms of the criminal justice system. Particularly in Australia, obviously our focus is on local issues and local systems, etc. But you will be exposed to what goes on in other parts of the world. And clearly sometimes, if we're having discussions about certain issues, it's impossible not to refer to other countries. Yeah. So yeah, comparing to, what's going on in the United States or the UK or non-Western countries, yeah, can be quite a useful point of analysis and comparison. So the criminal justice system itself, we're talking about essentially the three branches, what we refer to as the three branches of the CJS: police, the courts and corrections. There's also, the youth justice system, which is separate, obviously, to the adult justice system and which has its own issues. There was just something over the last couple of days, the ABC's been reporting about ongoing issues in youth detention, right? The Dondale Centre in Northern Territory still experiencing issues, no surprises there. Another one in Victoria, right? It's trying to understand those issues, why they occur, and even going down further to ask questions: why are we putting, young offenders in detention? What are we hoping to get out of that? What do we need to do better? So asking those sorts of questions, trying to understand what can be done, and then trying to fix things, right? Victim support, offender rehabilitation, all these different aspects, right, are involved in criminal justice. And criminology itself, so I'll get into the career stuff in a moment. Criminology itself, just to state the obvious, it's the study of crime, and it's the study of really not just why people commit crime, but why we respond to it in the way that we do, right? So one of the units that I was teaching this trimester is called Innovative Justice, and we kept coming back to the use of imprisonment and how it's problematic and doesn't necessarily work, but why we keep using it, right? And in fact, we're locking up more people these days than we ever have, yet crime is dropping, serious crime is dropping in Australia and across a number of countries, right? So how do we make sense of all of this? This is the point of criminology. This is the point of studying criminal justice. And yeah, so sorry, I'll explain why all the things that you've just talked about in the chat there, I have not watched any of them. I don't really watch much crime stuff these days because I suppose when I was starting out as a criminology student back in the day, I probably over-consumed. And this is pre-Netflix, right? I'm talking 25 years ago. I just read too much, I watched too much, and my brain just became oversaturated. So now I realize I need to separate things out, and mostly I just watch horror movies now and sport. So, fun times. Anyways, in terms of where studying criminology and criminal justice can take you career-wise, we look at generally, again, the main branches of the criminal justice system. So you've got the law enforcement side, the investigation side at the front end of it. You've got the law or legal side. Obviously, studying criminology, you can't become a lawyer, but you can still work in the legal field, certainly in the courts, those sorts of areas if you are interested. And then there's the other end of it, the corrective services side. So if you are interested in maybe working with offenders, so not necessarily as a psychologist, obviously, again, you have to do a psychology degree to do that, but working with offenders, rehabilitating people, this type of thing, case management, then you've got that side of it. Does anyone have a particular career path in mind? already, you're welcome to drop that into the chat as we're going. Taj, detective, so law enforcement and then into detective work. Yeah, fair enough. Criminal lawyer, Rima, yep. So using, I'll talk about that. I'll try and, yeah, whatever you pop in the chat, I'll try and give you my input as best I can. So keep those ideas coming if you've got an idea on where you want to head. So yeah, in terms of career directions with law enforcement, so we have probably around a third of students who join us actually do want to join, their state police force. So particularly in Queensland and Victoria, we see that. And on the detective side of it, I was actually, sorry, a really weird connection. My cousin happened to know a student of ours, of ACAP's, and anyway, her name's Elise. She finished up with us 3 or 4, no, probably more than that, 5 or 6 years ago now. Anyway, I happened to bump into her at a party my cousin was throwing and saw her again last year at his wedding, as it turned out. Anyway, Elise has been in Victoria Police for about 5 years, has now already managed to start earning her stripes as a detective. So that is certainly a pathway you can take. It takes time. You obviously need to get into the police force first, but certainly there's an opportunity there. You can also see the other sorts of law enforcement or investigations opportunities that are there. No, you don't need to be a police officer to be involved in law enforcement. There are, or in investigations and that type of thing. So there are federal agencies, and you can see some listed there. If anyone's interested in things like counterterrorism or organised crime, consider ASIO, consider AUSTRAC, these sorts of agencies who, obviously ASIO is intelligence, counterterrorism, threats to national security, that sort of stuff is where they occupy. AUSTRAC and even ASIC look at more financial offending, but AUSTRAC actually plays a really significant role in helping fight organised crime, right? Chasing the money trails, money laundering, that type of thing. So yeah, there's plenty of opportunities if you, just sort of think outside of the usual criminal justice space. In terms of law, so somebody mentioned using this as a Rima, it was, who was talking about becoming a criminal lawyer. So as I said, doing a criminology degree, you can't become a lawyer. You obviously need to do a law degree. But what we often see is students who start with us and then they go on to postgraduate study. So what's called a Juris Doctor. It's a master's level law degree, which then qualifies you to become a lawyer. So that's, a good pathway. It means you get a strong sort of background in criminology and understand the system and all of that, and then you can focus in on the law stuff. If you're an individual who is interested in law but doesn't want to be a lawyer, doing a course like ours can get you in the door in terms of paralegal work, so working for a law firm, that type of thing, working in the courts. There's plenty of opportunities there as well. And for those of you who are interested in the psychology side of it, the closest you'll get to that is with a straight criminology degree anyway, is in the correctional system. So whether that's, as a case manager, working with offenders in community corrections and that sort of thing. So there are opportunities there. It sounds as though there's a few of you, if you're thinking about things like criminal psychology, we don't really do profiling so much in Australia. You do need to put it through the lens of criminal psychology or forensic psychology. But I'll talk about the double degree that we have, psychological sciences and crim, that certainly, can help you out in realizing that type of career path. All right. So as I mentioned, you can certainly use the Bachelor of Criminology and Justice to springboard into further study, postgraduate study. So in fact, there's a few ways you can go. There is the Juris Doctor, as I mentioned. We find that we have students who, once they're at ACAP, kind of like the place, believe it or not, and they want to stick around. So I've got there, the first two are ACAP, other ACAP courses that students look at. So for those who are thinking, I've done the criminology side and actually I'd really like to focus on psychology, the Graduate Diploma of Psychological Science that ACAP offers becomes a good sort of pathway option for them. We've recently developed what's called an articulation from the Bachelor of Criminology and Justice into the Masters of Social Work qualifying. So what that means is, a direct articulation means it's a student who completes the Bachelor of Criminology and Justice can get automatic entry into the Master of Social Work qualifying. And the Master of Social Work qualifying, it's called that because a person who completes it then can become a professional social worker and can go and work again in the criminal justice system or wherever they want as a social worker. So working with offenders, perhaps working in community corrections, working in policy, whatever it might be. There's lots of different opportunities there. So the beauty of what we're offering, so yes, we only offer, across 5 or 6 different disciplines, but they link in to one another. Yeah. Yeah, it's all kind of in the same ballpark, what ACAP offers. Are other master's programs that are available to you. So, and I've just listed a couple there, those 3 that students, previous graduates have headed into. So I mentioned the Juris Doctor, even a Masters of Criminology, or there's, sort of spin-off areas like terrorism and security, international relations, those sorts of things. So if you're looking at it sort of long-term, certainly there are plenty of opportunities. Okay, so specifically the courses that we offer, there are 3 criminology courses at ACAP: the Associate Degree of Criminal Justice, the Bachelor of Criminology and Justice, and the Bachelor of Psychological Science and Criminology. I'll give you a bit of a rundown of each. So the Associate Degree is a shorter course, so 16 units. They're all compulsory units, or what we call core units. And yeah, it's a useful, maybe if you're working in the criminal justice system already and you're just looking for an add-on to your experience, it's a useful course. If you are maybe not sure about committing to a longer degree like the Bachelor, again, this might be a good option for you. It covers the initial knowledge, content, etc., that the Bachelor of Criminology and Justice covers. So you'll get an understanding, like we were talking earlier, about why the justice system is the way that it is, why it works the way that it does, why it doesn't work, how it's supposed to, those sorts of things. Get an understanding of criminal behavior, why people engage in it, etc. So you'll still get, all of that core sort of knowledge. If you want as well, whether during the associate degree or once you've completed it, you can move straight into the Bachelor, right? So don't feel like you have to do this one and that's kind of it. Actually, I recently had a student a couple of months ago who, I think she's got 2 or 3 units left in her associate degree, but is keen to get into the Bachelor, right? So all of the units that she's completed go straight over into the Bachelor, and then she's into that course and away she goes. So again, there's that flexibility. If you maybe not sure about a longer course like a bachelor's, start with this one and then move into that one. The Bachelor, so being longer, it's 24 units in total. 20 of those are core, again, compulsory, and students here get the option of 4 electives that they can choose from, and I'll give you a list of what those look like. So again, covers all of that content. understanding the justice system itself, how it works, how it doesn't, what we can do better, etc. Where it extends on what the associate degree does, though, at the third year level, at those final or the additional 8 units, you drill down into specific issues, right? So you get a better understanding of things like, say, mental health and criminal justice and the interplay between those, gender and crime, right? Just a couple of the units, but you focus in on these particular things, get even deeper, understand those, the issues associated with it, and again, what we can do better in those spaces. Yeah. And then you've also got the electives as well that obviously focus on specific areas. So this is what the Bachelor of Criminology and Justice looks like. If you just take the typical first year under the bachelor's and the first trimester of the typical second year, that's the associate degree of criminal justice, right? So those 16 units, right, make up the associate degree. And then with the bachelor's, there's under the typical second year, trimester 2, trimester 3, that gets added on. So I won't go through all of the units. If you dig around on our website, you might have, if not already, then you can. You can find brief descriptors of each of these. I will point out just a few of them. So Foundations of Justice is a unit that we like all of our new students to undertake in their first trimester. Not that we like, we basically make you do it. And the reason for that is it's an introduction to not just criminal justice and the concepts around it, but how to succeed in study, right, at university level, at tertiary level. So, you know, in that unit, you'll get a better understanding of how to write essays and reports and things. I mean, you'll be writing essays, you know, 1,500 words, 2,000 words, right? Sometimes even longer as you get up to the upper stages of the course. So, you know, knowing how to do that, knowing how to research effectively, right, and find what's considered valid research, how to reference all of that. So the Foundations of Justice unit is there to provide you with that background. So again, if, you know, maybe again, if you are coming to us, maybe just having completed high school, there's a bit of a jump there. If you've been out of study for a bit and you're nervous about coming back in, regardless, okay, the Foundations of Justice unit is there to help you with the transition into your higher ed course. Yeah, you can see just generally from the names of the units, they are what they suggest. So I was talking earlier about how we look at not just Australia sometimes, we do look overseas to see what's going on. You can see they're under trimester 3 of the typical first year, comparative criminology. That's all about comparing what happens in Australia to what goes on elsewhere, right? Because a way of understanding how we can do better is looking at, you know, what's working well overseas. Yeah, and also kind of helps get perspective as well. As much as we hear about crime in Australia, in a lot of ways, you know, nowhere near as bad as what goes on in some other countries. So, yeah. And then, yeah, you can see, so trimester 2, trimester 3 under the typical second year, as I said, things start to get more specific. There's also the work placement, the practicum that's there for those who are doing the Bachelor of Criminology and Justice. So the work placement is a 2-week placement. The college helps students get that, so don't feel as though, you know, that's something that you have to do on your own. We do our best to help find students a placement. Placements are done right across the criminal justice system. So we've got students at the moment who are going off to the police academy here in Victoria anyway, but potentially at police stations, law firms, sometimes prisons. People end up all over the place, and they get, yeah, a 2-week experience. It's only short, but the idea of it is that you just get a sense of, you know, what it's like working in these fields. So, you know, for those of you already with an idea of where you want to go, it's a great way of getting exposed to that workplace, the sort of work that those professionals are doing. hopefully it confirms that that's a job you want to do. Maybe it starts to raise questions and you go, oh, maybe that's not what I want to do. Equally, I think a valuable experience. So yeah, all of our bachelor students are expected to do a placement. And the practicum unit that's attached to that is essentially about work readiness. So it's there to help you make sense of your experience. You get to talk with other students about what they've done, what you've done, all that sort of stuff. But it's also there to help you shape your CV or your resume, write an application letter. Yeah, how to address key selection criteria when you're applying for a job. Practical stuff, yeah, that you need because you're towards the end of your degree, applying for jobs, yeah, and that unit's there to help you do it as effectively as possible. The elective units or subjects that we offer, so like I said, they begin to drill down into specific areas. So yeah, obviously cybercrime looks at crime online, the different sort of aspects of that, everything from hacking to sexually exploitative material. We look at things like digital forensics in that. It's pretty interesting. Forensic psychology is there. So those of you who are looking at that as a possible career path, yeah, through to things like terrorism and youth justice. So we feel as though the 4 electives that people are doing, they've got a decent amount of choice, and there's lots of interesting subjects in there. All right. So yeah, like I said, there is the work placement of the practicum. That's there for bachelor's students. Really important part, we feel, of the bachelor course, to give students that exposure to the working world, as it were. And the third course that involves crim at ACAP is the Bachelor of Psychological Science and Criminology. So again, those of you who are more maybe oriented towards psych, this is probably best for you. If you want to become a psychologist, then you definitely should be doing this course rather than a straight crim course, because doing a Bachelor of Psychological Science and Crim will help you get on the pathway to becoming a psychologist. So you can see there the breakdown. There's 24 units, 11 of those are psychology, 10 are criminology, and 3 are multidisciplinary. So there's no choice in this one. It's all set for you. You get all the important psychology content. So yeah, theories and models underpinning thinking, the research stuff, analysis, yeah, all the stuff that sits within a psychology degree. And then in terms of the criminology side of it, we focus there on sort of the key bits and pieces. So understanding motivations behind crime and the causes of crime, how the criminal justice system works, challenges the criminal justice system faces, that type of thing. And there are points where we marry up those two. So, you know, psychology and the criminal justice system, that sort of stuff. So yeah, there's that option there as well. As I say, I think particularly those of you who have mentioned, you know, criminal psychology, profiling, that sort of stuff, this is probably a more suitable course for you than the straight criminology one. All right. So our course entry requirements, there is what we call a screening interview. Yeah, so an online screening interview, and that's with our admissions team. So in fact, people like Nick and Saloni, who are there in the chat. And it's really, well, partly it's about us making sure that you're right, yeah, for the course that you're choosing. You know, that you have the necessary qualifications and all of that, but it's also about making sure that you're choosing the right course for you. So just like I was talking about, if you're talking about, you know, I want to study criminal psychology, and you're choosing, say, the associate degree or the Bachelor of Criminology and Justice, our admissions team will point you towards or have you consider your other options, namely, you know, the Bachelor of Psych Science and Crim. So it's as much an interview as it is a conversation. So try not to feel anyway too intimidated by that. So that's for everybody. And then really it depends on your experience to this point. So if you've completed high school, if you have a certificate 4 qualification or above, if you are 21 or above, or if you've, I think there was somebody who's already completed a degree, or if you've started an undergraduate degree, any of those is the basis for us to have an interview with you and potentially offer you a place, right? So note the ORs there. So even if you are above, or you're 21 or above, and maybe you haven't completed high school, you're still potentially, right, going to have a successful application. So yeah, if you're thinking about it, it's probably worth applying. Well, it is worth applying, have the discussion with our admissions team, and then make a decision. Yeah, worth having the chat for sure. All right, I feel like that's gone pretty quickly. There didn't seem to be a lot of questions coming through in the chat. Did anyone want to ask a question now, whether using your microphone or in the chat? There are some contact details there that you're welcome to record.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, sorry, this is Yoshima.
Hi, Yoshima.
Yeah, so I actually had quite a lot of questions. I heard you speaking about the courses and the pathways that you got as well. I'm very much interested to join. So I'm actually an international student who have completed my Bachelor of Laws. Right. Yeah, but was looking forward for something in criminology, or yeah, I'm very interested in crime stuff here.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. It sounds as though I think it's worth you jumping on our website, hitting the apply button, and having that discussion with one of the admissions team. Yoshima. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was there a specific question there, or sorry, I didn't hear a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to know about the. Sorry. Yeah. So I just wanted to. And what are the entry requirements? Like, do we have to do IELTS or no?
Right. Sorry. Yes. So for international, there is an IELTS score. Nick or Saloni, I can't remember. I don't want to get it wrong. Yoshima. I think it's a score of 6.5. I'm just trying to. Or
is that for the IELTS, sorry?
Yeah, that's right, Nick.
So it's an overall band with IELTS of 6.5, and no individual band is allowed to be below a 6.0.
Thanks, Nick. Does that answer that one? I think it was Yashima. Yeah. Kelv, did you have a question there? I can see you've come off mute.
Yeah, I've come off mute. I just wanted to ask, just regarding the associate degree, and also I'm actually involved with the psychological science in criminology. Now I'm just thinking, does that mean if I was to complete a portion that is with the associate degree, I'll automatically get the associate degree certificate prior to finishing one? You know what I mean? Like same with the other course, criminal and justice.
Right. No, you can't get both qualifications. You essentially do one and say move into the next one, or if you were to complete, say, the associate degree and then come back later, then you could get the second degree or qualification. Is that, Kelv, am I understanding you? Is that your question?
You mentioned that criminology and justice, the first testing units will roughly.
I'm with you.
Yes, you know what I mean. So
Yeah,
I mean, because I'm now thinking I'm working full time and doing this on the after hours.
Mhm.
I'm just wondering maybe doing an associate degree might be a good starter, just to see how things go. And if it looks like I'm more interested in the going further with the studies, then I'll take on the bachelor. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's kind of the intention behind it. So absolutely, yeah, that's a good way to go. And yeah, at any point during the associate degree, you can transfer into the bachelor's degree. And as I said, all the units that you've passed will count, so none of it's wasted. Yeah, or you can get to the end of the associate degree and then decide you want to then kick on to the bachelor. So yeah, there's that flexibility there.
Okay, thanks. And just one more thing,
Mhm.
just wondering with, you know, you mentioned a lot about law enforcement, and there's probably a lot of people that the intention is to join law enforcement. Do we get some sort of psychological testing to make sure that we are psychologically fit to be in those industry, or is that something that happens when we apply for these particular job?
Yeah, the second one. So it's up to those employers really to then assess your eligibility for those roles. Yeah. So if you're applying for, say, the police, they'll run you through the various testing that they require. Yep.
Okay, thanks for that. That's all. Thanks, Matt.
No worries. Good stuff. All right. Yashima, yes, I think you can see there's the phone number there for the college, 1-800-039-139. It sounds as though it might be worth you giving them a call.
Okay, yeah, sure.
And having a
no
chat.
problem.
Yep. All right.
Sorry, I
No
couldn't
worries.
find it. Oh, yeah.
Hey, Matt, I'll just
Thanks
throw to
a
you
lot.
for Marcel's recent question, just if there's any particular units you would recommend be studied best on campus?
Not necessarily, Marcel. I think if you've got if you're able to study on campus and that's what you feel will be the best way for you to learn, then go with it. We have students who prefer on campus, and so they do their best to come on campus, but sometimes maybe the timetable doesn't work. They have to work on certain days or whatever, so they split units. They maybe do one on campus, one online. It's really up to you. If it's, I mean, we've had students come from, Shepparton and sort of more rural areas in the past, which we certainly don't expect of people. It's really, I know I'm being vague. It's really up to, you. But yeah, if you were, visiting Melbourne for a bit, and you wanted to you would say you were here for 2 or 3 weeks and you wanted to come and do a couple of weeks of your course on campus, we could certainly allow that. That wouldn't be an issue. So hopefully that helps. With that, give you an opportunity to get out of Perth. Yeah. All right. Any other questions? It feels as though most of them have been answered. Lisa, your question around courses being enough to get you into the work. We see students through the placement experience they get with the bachelors. Even that's enough sometimes for them to be successful, or look at graduate programs, etc. There are certainly opportunities available to people who complete a bachelor's, without necessarily having any work experience in that sector. So they're there. I mean, there has to be opportunities, right? Otherwise, it's that whole thing about how do you get experience if no one will give you a job? So yes, you certainly can find work with these courses behind you, or a course behind you. Yeah, no worries. Taj study groups. Yeah, there are students who, so we've got students who organize their own Facebook groups, their own WhatsApp groups, their own online study groups. Yeah, very much so. They tend to be, yeah, things that students themselves organize kind of organically, but we also do offer, so as part of the support that ACAP offers, we've got a thing called the PASS program, which involves a former student running like a group study session. So yeah, there are those options for sure. Yeah, no worries. Any other questions? I'm aware that the psychology Discover session is starting at 7, and it sounds as though some of you may be interested in that one. So yeah, if you're again thinking of the Bachelor of Psych Science and Crim, probably worth heading along and just hearing. I think it's Professor John Rees who's presenting that one, or is it Matt Bambling? Anyway, one of the professors in psych is running that one. And then yeah, they'll talk you through the ins and outs of that course. So it's probably worth getting a sense of that side too. All right.
Can we get a copy of the what do you call it, the screens here? What do you call that?
Oh, the slides? Yeah. So the recording, I believe, and the slides, Nick, am I right in saying they'll be made available?
Recording, definitely. I'll reach out to marketing and get the slides compiled as well for us.
Yeah, thank you. And sorry, Marcel. Yeah, so 7 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. So are you still, is it 2 hours back in Perth? So coming on 5 o'clock, I think, if I've got my maths right, my time zones right. Yeah. Right. So Nick, do you happen to have the links for the next session? It's starting soon. Oh, there we go. Beautiful. Thanks,
just
Nick.
popped it in then.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Felix, yes, that's right. Or you can just call the course advisors. They can help with that process as well. All right. I'll leave it there. Thank you, everyone, for your time tonight. I hope you found that informative. I hope we've answered your questions. If you have any more questions, you can see the email addresses there. That's my email there, matthew.thurgood@acap.edu.au. You can contact the team via connect@acap.edu.au or give the team a call on 1800 039 139 and they will answer your questions. So yeah, we're here to help. Thanks again. Have a wonderful evening, and hopefully I'll see you at an orientation session in the not too distant future. Thanks very much.